In this video, we're going to learn about sensors, what they are and why they're useful. So the first question to ask is, what actually is a sensor? And basically a sensor is a device that detects or measures a physical property. So physical properties, for example, can include things like temperature, for how hot something is or how cold something is. Light intensity, so how bright an object is. An object's weight, how much it weighs. Pressure, for example, tire pressure, atmospheric pressure. And finally, you've got things like acidity, or how acidic or alkaline something is. So essentially, sensors are devices that detect and measure physical properties of things. A good example of a sensor is the temperature sensor inside the oven in your kitchen. The oven, in order to cook the food, needs to know how hot it has to make the food. And you tell it that by setting the dial on the front. And once you've done that, the oven then uses an internal temperature sensor to measure actually how hot it is inside the oven. And then all it does after that is compare the value that you set for it, say 100 degrees Celsius, with the value that the temperature sensor is giving it in the oven. And if it sees a difference between the two, it will either increase the heat or decrease the heat to try and make the temperature in the oven match that which you wanted it to be. So essentially the sensor is detecting the temperature so that the oven can then control it. The human finger is a great sensor. It's amazing. It can detect things like temperature, touch, pain, vibrations and sound. But it's not a very accurate temperature sensor. You couldn't put your finger on something and say that it's exactly 22.9 degrees. And you certainly wouldn't want to use it to measure the internal temperature of an oven. And this is the reason, well, one of the reasons that we have electronic sensors. And that's because they're more accurate, they're a lot more reliable than, say, using your finger. They can work indefinitely. They never get tired, they never need to sleep. And they're really good for computers because the output that they produce can easily be converted into a form that a computer can use. Whereas taking the finger example, if you had to sit there and describe how hot your finger felt every time the computer wanted a reading, that would be pretty ridiculous. All sensors have essentially three parts. The first part is the detector, and this is what measures the parameter that we're looking at, or measures the property, so whether it's temperature, pressure, humidity, doesn't matter. The next one is a processor of some sort that will take the raw value from the detector and convert it into a more useful form that can then be used by something else. And that something else is the output, and that's the last part. And the output is the end result. So it's a temperature reading on a dial for a human, or it's some data that gets sent off to a computer. So essentially all sensors will have these three parts, and especially electronic sensors. So why are sensors important? Well, the first thing is they let us monitor things. So for example, the weather. We can monitor climate because of the fact that we have sensors and weather stations. The other thing they let us do is keep long-term records. So there are weather records or meteorological records that go back hundreds of years because people have used sensors and recorded the values. And lastly, and probably most importantly of all, sensors let us control things because you can't control the temperature of an oven if you don't actually know what the current temperature of the oven is in the first place. So you have to have a sensor in there so that you can then know what the temperature is and then you can control it. So sensors let us be aware of things, they let us keep long-term records of things, and ultimately they allow us to control things. And that's a lot of the basis of robotics and electronics and modern technology, is being able to measure things and then control them. In the next video, we're going to learn about the sensors built into the JackBord Basic. To get directly to the next video, visit jb.works and search the TMT code shown on the screen. For more information and to get help, visit jb.works.